Hey guys, talk about FFIE, obviously. Took two shorts, one near market open after the up halt, which ended up getting squeezed, and then another on this little capitulation bounce. Really the same trade I made yesterday on FFIE, but this one much better because just of the raw extension, the squeeze of the major level, which was 3, heavily painted, and just the fact that it's up what 7-8,000% from the beginning of its run. So just insane. So you know there's a lot of good lessons in this chart, right? Not just the way I traded it, but just FFIE in general, right? Because I think a lot of people got caught in this over the course of the last couple days, and this really proves more than anything that you trade setups, right? You trade setups, you don't trade extension. Extension is not a setup. Extension is a bearish factor. A bearish factor is not a setup, right? You still need a liquidity thesis. You still need to pay attention to volume. You still need to pay attention to chart paint. You still have to understand how volatility patterns tend to work. And you can't just chase, right? And you can't just short things because they're up, right? It's like, because how does a stock, this chart is great, not just today's chart, but over the past 5 days, is great for understanding, like, how does a stock go from up 500% to up 1,000% to 2,000 to 4,000 to 5,000. It doesn't just magically go up, especially if it's trading a ton of volume. It doesn't just magically go up 5,000, 8,000%, right? The way it works is, first of all, unless you get an HKD situation where you have an empty order book, in order to go up 5,000%, you need a ton of volume. So volume determines pattern always, right? And also, you need to trick people, right? You need to trap shorts by faking bearish price action. You have to get people positioned on the wrong side of the trade, right? And it's the only way. It's the only way. So it's a combination of volume, a combination of chart paint, combination of tricks people like to use, and then approaching it from a multi-day time frame, right? I always say on multi-day runners, you got to look at the multi-day chart. Remember so I actually woke up at 4, covered my swing in like the 230s, and then I went back to sleep and got back on around, I don't know, 8:45 market. And, on my video yesterday, I mentioned, I was like, hey, FFIE is still above the 9 EMA on the hourly. I said that as it was going into end of day and as it was trading in the after hours. I was like, if you really zoom out, it's a multi-day runner. Got to look on the longer time frames, 15-minute, 30-minute, 1 hour. Still above the most bullish EMA there is, the 9 EMA. If something's above the 9 EMA, it doesn't mean it's going to keep going up, but it shows that we're not in confirmed backside, right? But that being said, I was still short. I was still swinging. I still expected a fade. Just didn't work out. But yeah, let's go over these trades, right? So again, I'm coming in here. Of course, I see the extension, but I want an entry, right? So what do I notice about market open, right? So first of all, we had pre-market high day at 302, and we had a bunch of lower high chart paint. Pointed this out in the Discord right away. I was like, there's a bunch of lower high chart paint, so I'm looking for some type of push towards highs. Now, this is so extended, so maybe as stocks get more and more extended, it's more and more likely you're going to get some type of aggressive move towards highs that stalls, that fails. Essentially a long trap below high day. So, part of my thesis was like, okay, 280, 285 is pretty painted. Maybe it pushes up to that level, right? So what do we get? Market open, it comes, dumps straight down to 220, right? And I'm like, man, I guess I missed this trade. I really learn to not feel FOMO whenever you see, a stock's extended and you see a dip 20, 25% in a couple minutes, and it's, you feel like you're going to miss the move. I was like, well, I was really waiting for this level, right? I'm just waiting for that level. I just learned over the course of my career that waiting for your levels. Now, there's exceptions. We'll talk about trades over here, right? And we'll talk about this price action over here. Super interesting. But a lot of times it's going to save you. You're going to miss out on a lot of trades. There's going to be trades where you have a thesis of what level they could be attacking, depending on the chart paint. That level doesn't get attacked, it goes down, you missed a trade. I miss trades all the time. However, I also avoid a lot of losses, right? Avoid a lot of losses because, not chasing weakness when, stock is still trading 10 million shares a minute, just insane volume, 10 million shares a minute. And then even if you wait for your levels and you get price action that you want, it can still not work, right? So it's, that's, and my daughter's right next to me. Hi. So yeah, we'll go over this. So, we get an aggressive move towards highs. Up halts right below high a day, right? And I was thinking, I was like, huh. And it was indicating, it wasn't indicating above high day, right? It was indicating right below it. So just given the pure extension, I was like, what is something, what's, in terms of manipulated volatility patterns, what is like a thesis I can have in terms of kind of a big brain short, right? What would be a not obvious entry, right? Because that's kind of the thinking you need, right? On these volatility patterns, what would be an entry that would be very counterintuitive? And one of those entries would be, well, maybe it unhalts and stalls under high day, right? We get a stall. There's $3, which of course $3 is scary because fake whole dollar resistance, right? That's a bullish factor, right? When market makers make a whole dollar or half dollar seem very like strong resistance, it gets heavily painted and it gets squeezed, which of course comes into play later. But at the time, I was thinking, not only long trap out of the up halt, but look how aggressive this move is, right? A lot of times on these long traps, the more aggressive the move towards highs, the better, right? Just because of a lack of support, right? Could go down. So went in pretty hard into 280s. And I was getting confirmation in the beginning. But then again, high volume. And as long as it's not breaking these lows, kind of like doing this and like doing capitulation, which I expected because it's up 7,000%. You always have to pay attention, man. When it comes to when stocks start to grind, and I was telling my room this, I was like, you have to pay attention to the walk down. It's gonna walk down. It's gonna walk down, and then it does a little aggressive move here, gets walked down, gets walked down, gets walked down, right? And I was like, hey guys, and the reason I covered a little bit here, only like about 15%, but I was like, if you want to de-risk, I said this in my Discord. Information down below about the Discord. A bunch of people at this, and also a bunch of people took a very similar trade, took a loss, and then shorted the backside action, right? So I was like, a lot of times on manipulated tickers, you'll get after, this is like 45 minutes to an hour lower highs. The volume started to get really low. I was like, what's likely to happen is they're going to initiate, right? Kind of initiate through the lower high paint, right? But my thesis was that it was going to push towards highs and then fail again, right? Kind of like this downtrend is too clean, right? A lot of retail longs will see a downtrend, they'll see a breakout of the downtrend, and if it's extended enough, in the right context, this could squeeze. Of course, this is a crazy black swan, 8,000%, 10 million share per minute runner. This has a lot of unique things going for it. But a lot of times they're just building up the backside liquidity to fix some type of move and pull it, right? So it's like, okay, well, I'm already positioned over here. I'm just going to assume that any type of rotation will fail, but I'll de-risk a little bit because I expect the rotation to come, right? So, so they push it, fills a huge ask at 3, doesn't break it. I had my risk right above it, and pulls back. And I was like, okay, great. This really needs to fade, right? Because this is essentially like a long trap push. But as I've said in my videos before, on manipulated strong tickers, the risk with shorting long trap pushes that seem to give confirmation, the risk is lower high paint. Remember, we got that high day at 302, got lower high paint, and now we got like essentially 3 highs at $3, right? Fake whole dollar resistance. So unsurprisingly, when it started to rotate back up, I was like, exactly, really the opposite of what you want to see. And since everyone had their stop losses at 3, a lot of people, including me, got some slippage. Some people got, slippage up to 310, 315. even though you might have had your stop loss right at 301, 302. It just happens, right? The more painted a level is, especially on these high volume names, when that level gets squeezed, the more likely you're going to get slippage, right? Now, I'm not looking to short this, right? I'm not looking for a high day clear out because, again, on most strong stocks, I assume high day clear outs are not going to work, right? The actual topping action is going to be something like this, right? So again, 10 million shares per minute, all the volume comes in. It's just 1 minute 20 up onlys. I'm not looking again. I'm not looking off the 1 minute 20 up here because it's quite extended. We got a painted flat top over here. I thought that could get attacked. And they actually did a little interesting thing on the book. The book was a little bit cleaner today, but overall, I was still mostly just using the chart. But the book was a little bit more useful than yesterday. And then, after they squeezed this level again, they started doing these like soaks in the cellar, soak in the cellar, soak in the cellar. And it had a very tight, like 370, like 369, 370 was very tightly controlled. Now, there's kind of some bullish and bearish things about that, right? A lot of times on strong stocks, if a level is like kind of like this, if a level's tightly controlled, a lot of times they're purposely holding that level down to push it later. So I thought maybe something like that could happen, right? Break 370, get up to 375, 380, then pull, right? But what's some bearish price action that could invalidate that, right? I said this in my Discord. I was like, there's painted higher lows right above 350. So they were holding 350, 350. This was like 350, 351, 353. So now you got almost like fake $half support, right? They're making 350 seem very strong. There's a big bid right there on 350 that was being held. And I thought we'll go over this price action, but this candle at we'll actually just go to the chart here. This candle, this high relative volume candle here, right? So you could see the painted higher lows on 350. And then they touched 350, and then this big high relative volume initiation that got into the low 360s. And I'm like, I was hoping this would tap 350, get up to 370, 375, and pull. But instead, they just stuffed it right away. I saw this roll over, and I'm like, should I chase it? Should I chase like mid 350s right here? That's honestly what I was thinking. I was like, should I just, I think 350 is going to get broken. And it could be massive downside, right? But I was afraid of having my average kind of too far away from high day. Decided to just avoid it. And then I made the exact same trade, more or less, that I did yesterday. Get the huge capitulation, and you get this massive bounce. The thing about these massive bounces is you got to be careful, right? A lot of these bounces go higher than people think. A lot of people might be super tempted to short like these candles down here, which, of course, it would have worked out in the end, but a lot of times these bounces go a lot higher than you think, and the higher the better. Like the more, again, it gets back to the counterintuitiveness of volatility patterns. It's just, a lot of times, it's not going to make a 10% bounce. It's going to make like a 25, 30% bounce off the lows, right? And then you can make a play, right? So, when I saw this bouncing, I was like, it was like at 310. I was like, oh man, like 320s would be nice. Like 320, and then it broke 320s. Broke 320s here, and then came up to this 330 ask, and there was like this massive ask at 330 that was like, I forgot how many shares it was. It was like 700,000 shares at 330. And what they did is, it is like, man, if they break that and it stalls, I'm going to short it, right? And also, I noticed a 1 minute 20 here and a 1 minute 50 here. I was like, you know what? This is nice because this type of move shouldn't really reclaim 350 where all this consolidation is. That's kind of, you got to take wider risk on these types of plays, right? Just because the volatility, the range is so huge. But yeah, I just went in hard. I saw that 330 ask get filled. Just went in really, really hard. Pretty much just shorted everything I had, tried to get as good of an average as possible. But then again, my average is at 330, so I actually de-risked it a little bit. And then I was like, man, I'm so tired of watching this. I just told my Discord, I was like, I'm going to go. I'm just going to go eat, because I didn't eat all morning. I was just watching this all morning. And then funny enough, my internet went out for like this entire area, which ended up being great because I didn't do my next covers until down here, and then I covered when these lows got broken down here. I was covering in the 120s down here. So, but yeah, I mean, let's just let's go over yesterday again. Very similar short when I shorted this up here. Problem is this short was super far away from high day. So, and I already had an average up here. So there's a difference between treating this like a scalp, right, and treating this as potential, continuation, right? So, but yeah, let's go. Woke up, covered here. Literally covered at like 401. And I was like, man, I'm really tired. I'm gonna go back to bed. And then, yeah, here's the chart paint again. One of the big lessons is waiting for painted levels to get attacked, right? Waiting for painted levels. Look at this. Look how controlled these lower highs are. Super. Stock is incredibly grindy, right? Super controlled. 280 all the way to 285 to 290, super painted, right? And then, God, I hate thinkorswim sometimes, man. And yeah, saw the dump, crazy volume, saw the rotation, up halt, and then yeah. And a lot of people took this because we got my soak in the cellar, classic little manipulation trick, right? Where you get a big, and of course the volatility in this thing is so insane. Huge, massive, 10 million volume dump, gets soaked all the way back into the 290s, starts to stall right under high a day, right? Took a short. I shorted a bunch, shorted all my shares, shorted a bunch of shares. And then I was like, you got to pay attention. Like, ideally, this just keeps going down. But we got our first walk down here. Look at this. Clear lower highs. Now, again, because I'm bearish bias the extension, I'm assuming, this downtrend is going to get broken. So high volume breakout, and then that's going to fail and roll over. I was hoping this would just roll over like this, but then starts to soak, and then we get another walk down, right? So now it's like, wow, another, this is still relatively close to market open too. So, this is a major liquidity move being walked down for 20, 25 minutes. And then when this volume started to get really low, I was like, okay, guys, you could de-risk here if you want. I'm seeing some lower highs at 280, 285. Like any type of rotation needs to reject, right? So we get this rotation. This rejected. Comes back up to 3. That's pretty scary. That gets rejected. And then, yeah. It's at this point, I still believed. I was still holding. Still believed that this could roll over. But yeah, it just there's a lot of bearish factors. Like you could see, there's a ton of higher lows on this thing, right? So if this is going to long trap and kind of roll over here, I mean, this is just crack through so many levels, which comes into play later, right? If we really zoom out on this play, obviously the move started at 4 cents. This just went 1 minute 9, 1 hour 9, 1 hour 20, and here's that 90 MA, that 90 MA in the hourly in the after hours. Look at the continuation. I mean, the reason this faded so hard is not just because it's extended, but also because how up only it went on a longer time frame. If you really zoom out, like, and on multi-day runners, always be zooming out, like beat open to 15 minute, open to 30. I like 15 minute and hourly. Few people in the room like 30. I like 30. 30's fine. It just has to be longer, right? You just have to see how they're accumulating the stock. And I mean, it just went like on the hourly, actually just literally just higher, low, pretty much up only, right? No major dip and rips or anything, just higher, low. What do we know about that from a low float perspective, right? What do we know about nonstop higher lows and low floats? We learned that when the momentum ends, they crack really hard, right? Because there's just nothing but in the money longs, right? Everybody's long, and a lot of shorts got squeezed, right? So if the more longs in a stock and the less shorts in the stock, the weaker it is, right? Now, of course, this went on a crazy run, but that affects how the stock fades, right? So, massive, massive fade. And yeah, we'll focus on this price action. So, super painted high day. Was thinking about shorting it, but I was like, man, this is so painted. Like, what if they come back and attack this later? Have your, again, another FOMO dump here, right? Another big chasing FOMO dump. I could see a short here or here. I was heavily, especially with this soak off the 1 minute 50 into the seller over here. I just passed on it because of the chart paint. But I could see a short either here or here. Honestly, like, don't blame anyone for taking that. But we'll open up the book really fast because the book got really interesting here and over here. So yeah, over here was interesting because when they rotated this back up, they put a huge ask. I'll show you. I'll just show you right now. They put a huge ask. What am I looking at here? There we go. Here's that rotation. They had this huge ask here, and they started pulling the ask before they initiated it higher, right? Again, I wasn't putting too much weight on the book. I thought that was interesting. I also thought this was interesting that they actually threw up a huge bid here. They pulled the bid and then they rotated it back higher. Again, I wasn't super using the book on this play because of volatility. I'm in the volume, but yeah, this is here's this 350 higher low, higher low, higher low. They touched 350. Here's that initiation, that high relative volume initiation, and then it started rolling back over. And that's really where I started debating getting in. I didn't get in, and then yeah, went in hard on this capitulation, massive bounce. And remember, a lot of these bounces were getting soaked and pushed, right? So eventually, there's going to be a change in behavior, right? There's going to be a change in behavior from massive dumps getting reclaimed, massive dumps getting reclaimed, and then it's eventually going to fail, right? So, I'm not really, my style of trading is really just like waiting for painted levels, especially on these higher volume, these grindy higher volume names. And they're just trying to use the liquidity patterns to, that I know from low floats, know from low float volatility that have a major chance of getting people caught on the wrong side, right? We can look at the book on this. I don't know how instructive it really, again, I wasn't really using the book on this play, but we can look at it really fast. Go, yeah, here you go. So it unhalts, massive dump out of the unhalt, push up to 3, starts to stall at 3, and then you just start to see the stall right here, and this is where I just went in the 280s here. And actually some asks started following it down. Pretty nice. Just didn't work out, obviously. But yeah, here's that 3 asks getting filled. Massive. This is up here, this is something like, I don't know, 300,000 shares getting filled on the ask. That's why I don't short high day clearouts, by the way, on super strong stocks. Stuff like this happens. But yeah, man, it's already 23 minutes. FI, yeah, 2 trades. Both worked. Both followed patterns that I'm used to trading. Just first one didn't work, and that's how it is, right? And then you just have to make a judgment call, right? And, as stocks get really, 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 really extended, a lot of times these soaks in the sellers will produce, fades. And sometimes you have to make a judgment call. I was waiting for the 370 to get pushed. Sometimes, factoring in the extension, you could make a judgment call to short something like this, right? Short something in 350s here. I just didn't do it. I just didn't think it was the right move, even though it was. But luckily, I got a secondary pattern and went straight down. So that's FFIE. Future thoughts on this play. Keep in mind, guys, this started from 4 cents. So, this could still keep going down. I think long term, this ends up going back to penny land, like low penny land. But then again, as we get into next week and the next 2 weeks, this is a lot of down only. All right. there could be backside games, right? Of course, I absolutely it's absolutely not going to get back up to 3.9, but you could see, we saw on moves like TPST and TTOO and other penny names that, especially given how aggressive this dump is, like just nothing but lower highs, 80% down, lower highs. You can get moves back up into the twos or mid twos and stuff like that. You never know, right? Keep an open mind. Understand that every single long is pretty much shaken out of this thing. Shorts are absolutely piling in, and we could see, there's going to be days, it could be in the pre-market next week on some random day, but we could see some backside action. But I mean, this went so up only, and keep in mind this is still up. This started at 4 cents. This is trading at 112. I mean, this could easily go it's gonna easily fall back down to 50 cents, right? Easily. I mean, it's up so even right now, it's still up so massively that there's plenty of room to fall. So going to keep an open mind going into next week about it. So anyways, that's it for today. Hope it was instructive. Fake whole dollar resistance, long traps that become short traps, big volume, capitulation bounces, right? Very similar to the trade yesterday, right? Capitulation bounce. They tend to go higher than most people think. A lot of people might be tracing this or trying to short, too early. And the more aggressive they are, right? The more up only they go, the less support they have on the way back down. So, interesting play. One to remember. And so you guys have a good weekend. Information down below about the Discord, and see you next week.